Last time I mentioned a surprising development that Marco Inaros tried to use to throw Anderson Dawes off track. That development was thanks to the Rocinante. After debrief and still more debrief, Avasarala finally lets the men on the plan to place a mission commander aboard the Rocinante for the coming operation. Well, Holden won't hear of it until it's revealed that this commander is Bobby Draper, at which point it's immediately a done deal. Bobby is family for the crew now as far as he's concerned. What allowed Marco the illusion that he was in control of the solar system was the fact that the Earth fleet was stuck defending Earth, patrolling for the incoming asteroids that he was still hurling towards the sickened planet. This allowed him to have free rein elsewhere, for now, but either arrogance or resignation left the Azure Dragon, the ship still hurling rocks, without an escort to defend it when the Rocinante arrives. Oh, they put up a good fight, trapping Bobby in an airlock and using maintenance bots to try to sabotage the Rossi, but it's not enough to hold off even a single gunship without a full crew, who bring the surviving Free Navy back to Luna as prisoners, along with the Azure Dragon itself. I mean, that could be invaluable. It might have data on the incoming asteroids, because after all, the asteroids aren't following a straight line to get to Earth. They can be looped all over the place and hit the planet months, years, even decades from now. But Bobby is outraged that the trap kept her out of the fight that she emotionally has been needing to get into. And Clarissa needs to be pulled more completely into the family, after joining Amos in a fight against the Belters without permission and nearly getting herself killed, presumably to try to prove herself. Handling his expanding family is a new responsibility that Holden doesn't seem to be ready for, unsure of how to make things better, something that he's just not used to. He's used to assuming that everything has simple solutions to it. Avasarala, on the other hand, knows exactly what is called for to fix situations, as Holden discovers when he returns and finds all of his parents have been brought up from Montana to the safety of the Luna settlement. As Bobby says, the old lady knows exactly how to reward people to keep them on her side. However, things take an unfortunate turn when there's first awkwardness over Naomi, and later one of Holden's fathers refers to the Belters as skinnies, a derogatory slur. Naomi intervenes when Holden tries to rebuke his father, since that would only ruin things, planting a seed in Holden's mind. Remember, his point in the last book was how they still hadn't solved the problem the Belters were facing, the thing that motivated support for the uprising on Mars and the Free Navy's rise was how the Ringgates have changed everything, and they're not going to change back, no matter how much some may want them to. It's time to recognize that the human race has entered a new era, and the old problems simply cannot be dragged into it. We have to move beyond it. Holden's father's thoughtless slur in front of Naomi was as much a symptom of this as the crew of the Pella cheering the deaths of Earthers. There's a mental separation that is going on. It's as if we view our experience as kind of like a stage, with those who are real being the ones who are involved with us, the actors, if you will, and the ones who are painted onto the backdrop, we can't process them. A billion individuals back there, we just lump those background people into convenient categories and place them in a box with a label in order to process them. And even when the actors would also fit into that box, we still don't process them that way. Sometimes we just think of them as being some kind of an exception to it. So Holden realizes that one of the things that he can do is use his celebrity to try to expand the understanding of the box so that it isn't merely the quick and convenient labels that define people. But regardless of all of this human drama taking place, there is one issue that's beyond all human control and understanding at the moment. Monica Stewart's discovery about the missing ships actually had nothing to do with the Free Navy. The disappearances were not the ships being officially lost, but rather materially lost. They were physically ceasing to exist, something we had seen actually from the point of view of a renegade Martian warship which ceased to be after passing through the Ring Gate at the end of the last book. Naomi had figured this out, and the matter is now being handled by the scientists on Luna, who can find a lot of things that the ships all had in common, but so far nothing to suggest why it might be happening. There's just too little data. Now, Medina Station could have more data to help them figure this out, but with Medina going dark, presumably part of the Free Navy now, there's no help coming from there. And really, the Free Navy has little reason to crack that anyway. They are probably the most opposed to all this colonization anyway. Avasarala decides that now that the Earth Navy is no longer pinned down dealing with falling rocks, to send them to Ceres, knowing that Marco and his inner circle are there. But Marco admits in his own way what I was talking about last time. They can't stand a toe-to-toe fight against an actual military, even with their stolen warships. But being Marco, he just can't come out and say that. No, he has to spin this the way that he spins everything. So he uses the example of the Afghan people and their historic inability to be conquered to describe the Free Navy's approach. It is genius, his word, to win by avoiding controlling territory. The others take turns pointing out the problems with his example. Sandrani points out that they were economically backwards, and Rosenfeld dismisses the argument as nothing more than romanticizing primitive hill people. Yet Marco continues to use them as a model to emulate. Never mind that his examples undermine his own immediate and long-term plans. After all, despite his assertions, the region where the Afghans lived was repeatedly conquered. It's just that some people refused to be pacified by the conquest. But the unruly were no government like the Free Navy is pretending to be. Yet Marco twists this as he twists everything to make his current plan, which, when you boil down to it, is run away, seem like he's a genius. He intends to strip Ceres of practically everything, even what is bolted down, so that instead of finding a thriving station, Earth would now have even more refugees to care for. And it would strip Anderson Dawes of his position of power, castrating the man who had stood up to him, even as he called it a favor. Now, it is admittedly a brilliant individual strategic move, but Marco is trying to put a bow on it to make it seem like it's more than that. He's not making the best of an awful situation. He presents this as part of a larger strategy that will earn them ultimate victory, that it was always part of the plan. He says that a lot. It's a lie that is very convenient. The simplest of logic says that it contradicts everything he has spent all this time talking about. He went on and on and on about Belter stations, and now is saying the Free Navy policy is not to be tied to stations, but rather to be fluid. In other words, he expects the Free Navy to have a bold expansion of Belter settlements while declaring that he has no intention of defending Belter settlements. The problem Marco has when it comes to warfare is that he has the ambitions of a conqueror, but an army of terrorists. I don't claim to be a military historian, but to the best of my knowledge, no one has seized the sovereign territory of another by using asymmetrical tactics. And with his allies on Mars fleeing the system, and any on Earth dead from starvation, that is foreign territory for Marco. Asymmetrical tactics work when a foreign power is in your territory, not the reverse. It doesn't crush them with overwhelming might. It leads to weariness that the war isn't worth it. A nation is willing to abandon a counterproductive foreign policy with relative ease. But for a militarily superior force to surrender territory or control to a foreign power, I don't believe that has ever happened. Only in keeping foreigners out of distant territory, because it's more trouble than it's worth to them. It's what allowed Tycho and Ceres to be independent from Earth. But Marco's goal is not to get the UN and the Martians to stay out of the outer planets. His goal is nothing less than domination of the solar system. And there is no situation where the UN would ever possibly allow themselves to be bottled up on their planet and have their biosphere pillaged for resources. There is no way they would ever agree to that unless they were flat out defeated, their armies broken, a complete inability to fight back. Marco seems to be operating on the mistaken assumption that war is like a sporting event, that if you get a high enough score, then you've won. What matters is advancing your campaign to the conclusion that you want. You can win every single battle, but if you fail to do that, you've lost the war. The speech, though, is nothing but a face-saving gesture. Dawes sees this as nothing but retribution. Sandrani and Rosenfeld that it's nothing but a way to make fleeing sound noble. And Pa sees this as a sign that she's allied herself with a monster. If Marco is turning Ceres back into a hollowed-out rock with millions, literally millions of belters trapped inside of it, and then sending the supplies that she has stolen into a long orbit rather than distributing them to the needy belters like they had originally planned, how is he helping the belt? She informs her family, like Holden's parents, Pa has a marriage of many men and women, that she made a mistake. She bought into Marco's dream that was exactly as insubstantial as dreams are. So she's already plotting with her family to forget about Marco and his warship-backed ego trip and instead carry out the original plan for the belt. And yes, ego is a massive part of it, because when Pa sends him the message of what she's doing and why she's doing it, Marco is paralyzed into inaction by the slight, to the point that Rosenfeld has to approach Philip, explaining that orders, even the wrong orders, are necessary right now in order to maintain momentum for their cause. Otherwise, the entire narrative that the revolution was over before the Inners even knew it had begun would fall apart. That Ceres would be seen as a retreat rather than a strategic move that's part of a larger design, which is the message that they are trying to send. Following up their withdrawal with new action suggests that it was all part of a larger strategy. Following it up with inaction says they don't know what to do next. Rosenfeld is prepared to give an order himself. Any order, he says, as long as Philip is willing to back him up. Or barring that, if Philip can get his father to stop sulking in his tent, as Rosenfeld puts it, and give the orders, fine, just something. And so yes, Marco does have an order. Make Pa and all who still support her pay for this insult. Because what is truly harmful to the belt is not tearing apart the noble city that was Ceres, of allowing belters to starve while their supplies are hidden around the solar system. What truly harms the belters is to betray Marco Inaros.